My name is Andy Hornby, photographer and vlogger. 15 years ago I started teaching myself photography. Today I travel the UK as a professional wedding photographer, landscape photographer and filmmaker. Learn from my experiences, my mistakes and my tips and advice. Join me on my photography adventures. Hey guys, welcome to another video. I am currently in an office today. I did a review of the A73's autofocus system and the face detection the other day, and that video did really well. There was a lot of comments and a lot of questions about some other bits and pieces on the A7 III which I haven't gone over yet, so I thought I'd do another video and answer a couple of those questions. The main one being about the silent shutter on the A7 III. How good is it? Is it useful? Have I used it already? And what I think of it. So I'm going to answer those questions in this video, so stay tuned. I am indoors because I can't think of a reason why I'd want to use a silent shutter outdoors. And being indoors, we can really test the shutter speed and the low light capability of this, and I want to shoot it in burst as well to see what happens in burst mode with the silent shutter, and I want to show that to you today, hopefully from the test I do today. So I shot probably about 18-19 weddings in the last year with my A7iii, and I didn't once use a silent shutter. I don't find a need for it. There's a lot of people out there with questions, so I'm going to do this today, but bear in mind I don't use a silent shutter. I have no use for it. I'm a wedding photographer. If I'm at a wedding and I'm the official photographer, people expect me to take pictures, right? So why would they be unhappy if they hear a shutter? I don't know. The Sony mirrorless cameras are notoriously loud, but like I said, I'm the official photographer, so if my camera's shooting and I'm making a bit of noise, it is what it is. So I've never actually had to use the silent shutter. But there are people out there who want to see what this test does today, so I'm going to do the test, but please bear that in mind. Regardless of how this does today, I still love the A7 III. I love my A7R2. Both of those will be coming with me at weddings, and whatever happens with this test today, it's not going to sway me from keeping my camera system. If it sways you guys from buying it, then so be it. This is a test for you. So today I am in an office, like I said. I have natural light that side from a massive window, and I have unnatural light the other side, and I can turn them all off. I can close the screens so we can get quite dark in here. We can go pretty low light, and we're going to test the silent shutter on this in different scenarios. Hopefully by the end of this video you will be more clued in on how the silent shutter works on the A7 III, and if that's what you want to use to decide whether you're going to buy it, fine, completely up to you. So here we go, we'll get into this, and it should be good. Let's try this. Okay guys, here we are, the first picture. We're at f1.4, and in fact I stay at f1.4 for most of these shots, and we have an ISO of 100 and we're at 1/60th of a second, which is just to get a base exposure. So initially I'm going to try out the longer shutter speeds with the more higher ISO, and then we'll get on to the faster shutter speeds, which is where I think we're going to start seeing some banding. So let's get into this. This first picture is our base exposure, and let's get to the next. So in this shot I've closed the curtains just so I can dim the lights down a little bit and go for slightly longer shutter speed at 1/3 of a second. You can see there's no problem with this picture at all. Everything seems fine. With this picture I've actually gone to 1.3 seconds. I've turned all the lights off all over the place, so it's fairly dark inside there, and literally just gone for 1.3 second exposure, and everything again is fine. I didn't typically expect anything to be wrong with these images at these speeds, so we're going to start looking now at faster speeds, the speeds you'd kind of use in an environment where you'd be shooting people, like an event. So let's get into that. Okay, so here you can see I'm still at f1.4. I've shot my ISO right up to 10,000, and I'm at 1/1/60th of a second. I've done that because this is the kind of speed you'll expect to be using this camera at if you're at, say, a wedding or an event where people are moving. There's a bit of fast pace going on. You want to stop all motion in things like the arms and hands, and when people are moving in their feet and stuff. So this is the kind of sort of speeds you're going to be looking at. And in this picture, Actually, it's not too bad, but I want to come back to this picture a bit later on because at this same speed, at 1/160th of a second, when I shot differently in different lights, we did get some banding, and I'll come to that in a second. Okay, what you're seeing here is actually burst mode. I've actually put the pictures up, and you'll see a little flicker there. That's going on to the next frame. So with this shot at 10 frames a second, I got about 22 shots here, and there were no issues at all, using the same settings as the previous image. So yeah, you know, you wouldn't necessarily use such a high ISO, but at 1/60th of a second, things seem to be okay in burst mode using the silent shutter. So we'll see. So here I wanted a bit more depth of field, so I've opened up to f5.6 and gone back down to ISO 100, and I've actually gone for 15-second exposure. Again, I'm not expecting any issues from this. It's the faster shutter speeds we're expecting issues from, but just to give you a frame of reference, here is a longer shutter speed. So to start off the sort of faster shutter speed scenarios, I've gone for a very typical kind of situation. If you're in a very dark church or a dark reception room, you've had to bump your ISO right up to 64,000, and I'm at 1/500th of a second. Here, there's no real visible banding here, and this is interesting to note because when I open the curtains and go for a lower ISO at these speeds, we do find banding, which is very important. I'll explain that in a second. So this is in a very dark location. To get a fast shutter speed, you've got to bump your ISO really high, and it's still a usable image just about. There is quite a bit of noise in there. You can't see from the video unless you pixel peep right in there, but this, just bear in mind, at a high ISO, at a fast shutter speed, we're not really seeing any banding. This image would be usable, it'd be fine if you pull back the noise reduction in Lightroom or Photoshop. So let's now get onto images where you're in a lighter situation but you still want fast shutter speeds. Let's do that. So here is the main test. We're going to be sticking at f1.4 for the rest of these images, and we're going to be changing the shutter speed and compensating with the ISO to match and get the same exposure throughout, and we're going to see if we start to get some banding. So currently at 1/125th of a second at ISO 1000, definitely a usable image. I would probably use this sort of shutter speed at a wedding if I absolutely had to, but we're indoors, the lights are on indoors, and usable image, fantastic. Next we're coming to a more typical sort of shutter speed, 1/160th of a second. We bumped the ISO to match to get the same exposure, and we don't have what you might see as banding in this, but it is starting to creep through, which is quite strange considering at a higher ISO we had better results at a faster shutter speed than this, in fact. So this image is usable, it's not completely rubbish, but as we go on you'll notice more banding coming in. Let's get on to the next image. Here again, to the naked eye, you won't particularly be able to see anything wrong with this image, but when I play these back to you in succession in a little while, you will see that there's quite a bit there. It's starting to creep in fact. Like I say, difficult to say, difficult to tell. You could potentially use this image, but just behind the Batman, sort of midway down shoulder and a little bit below, there is a bit of banding there. Very slight, but it will be noticeable when I show you these back in a second. Okay, playing through these a little faster now, we can see that to the naked eye it's pretty hard to tell there's banding in there, and you'll have to wait for 2 minutes because I'm going to play these back a little bit faster for you. But we are speeding up the camera and we're bumping the ISO to compensate for the lack of light coming into the lens. And as you flicker through from frame to frame, you do see behind Batman different sort of bits of banding coming in. Wait for it, the next one's coming in. Now, do you see that? There's quite a few there. Noticeable to the layperson? Probably not. If you're at a wedding and you've got a light background like this, The banding isn't going to be too bad. You know, we're out of focus in the background anyway because we're at 1.4, so does it really matter? I don't know. That's something only you can answer yourself. And it is getting worse as we go faster and faster with the shutter speed. But again, it's going to be down to whether you consider it to be a usable image or not. You know, if it's a darker background, you might have different results, potentially worse results. So here we are. I'm going to play these through faster for you right now. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The test is done. Not the most scientific of tests, however, it does show that at the faster shutter speeds, you can potentially get a bit of banding. Now, if you've got a white background, it's not a major deal. You can probably pull the picture back, and most lay people would not really see or understand what that banding is. We photographers obviously know what to look for and find these things in other people's pictures and in our own sometimes. However, having said that, I did do some testing at home. I had a darker background and the banding was terrible. It was really quite bad. At the sort of faster shutter speeds, you know, you sort of 500ths of a second, which you may never use at an event or wedding, but it is there. You guys make your own mind up whether you want to take this test and use it to see whether you want to buy this or not. For me, like I said before, I don't use a silent shutter. It doesn't bother me that you get banding with the silent shutter because I'm never going to use it. The focus system on this is awesome. I like the eye detection on it, it's fantastic, and it gives a really sharp image. For 24 megapixels, it can't go wrong, so I'm happy. This is just completely up to you guys. It was a very unscientific test, I know that. We used Batman of all things. It wasn't real world with people because I don't actually have someone to test this on. But like I said, I have tested this with people before in dark rooms at faster shutter speeds, and it wasn't very good. The banding was definitely there with a darker background. So take this away, do what you will. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I am going to do an ISO test at some point shortly, so look out for that video within the next couple of days. Hopefully that video should be quite good, because I'm told that you can take the A7 III to a really good high ISO before you get some really bad noise in the images. So look out for that. Please slap a like on this video if you got any information from this and it helps you out for any reason, whether you're going to buy the A7 III and you wanted to know about the silent shutter. If it's going to be something you're going to use all the time, then I hope this video helped you in some way. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. There will be more videos coming out on the A7 III and other bits and pieces as well, so please look out for that and hit that notification bell so you get all the videos that I update. You'll be notified and you'll be the first to see them. Thanks guys, hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next one.